Welcome to Dr. Teach Me to Parent. I have a program today that I think will be very helpful to you as a parent. If you're a parent with small children, I'm going to identify 25 different tasks, different lessons that's important for you to teach your children over the coming years as you prepare them to leave home. Now, if you're a parent with a kid who's now ready to leave home, they're in the late teenage years or early 20s and ready to leave home, have you taught these lessons? We're going to look at 25 lessons that you should have taught your kids so that they are ready to leave home now that they are at that age. So have you done your job? That's the question. Now, if you have kids that are older and they're already left at home, how did you do? Did you prepare them well? And were they able to soar? Were they able to thrive as they moved out into the marketplace of life over the last number of years? So it's kind of an opportunity for you to kind of review yourself, review your parenting, but it's also an opportunity to check if there are some holes in the lessons that you have taught your kids over the years, and there's holes that need to be plugged, and lessons that need to be learned, and lessons that need to be taught. That's the topic today. So it's an inventory for you as a parent. Inventory for you to fulfill, an inventory for you as a checklist as how you're doing now or how you did in your parenting years. So that's where we are today, 25 things, 25 lessons that need to be taught to your children to prepare them to leave home. Are they ready to leave home? That's the question. So here's what we're going to look at. Now, in my book, Dr. Teach Me to Parent, I have a chapter devoted to this general topic, but today I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit more and add more information to this kind of question and make sure that you as a parent have kind of a checklist to go by. So we're going to give you a long checklist. Get your paper and pencil out. You may want to take some notes. You may want to make a list of the things that we're going to be showing you today and that I'll be talking about on these 25 different things, 25 different lessons as part of parenting. Very important part of parenting. So be prepared. Get your paper and pencil and call somebody, if you will, that might be ready to receive this message, and maybe you need to convey this message to them in some way. So have them listen in. Have them be part of the program today. So connect with somebody and have them listen in as we proceed through our program, today. Now, before we start, I always start with a little piece of poetry or a quote that I think is important that puts into perspective what we're going to be talking about today. And here's the quote for the day. A house on the ground without a foundation will surely fall. Now, this is the point. The house is your kid. Your house are your children. And ground is the world in which they live. Ground is the world in which they're going to live, the life that they're going to live, where they're going to live that. Are they prepared? Do they have the foundation? The foundation on these 25 points that I'm going to be talking about today. So you as a parent, you have opportunity now to make sure your kids are grounded, make sure they have the lessons, make sure that they are prepared to move forward and succeed and thrive in their own independent living. So that's why we're here today, and let's join in as we kind of pick up these issues of 25 points that you have to be very, very sure you are teaching or you have taught your kids as they move forward in their life to be independent. Now, that may not surprise you, but the very first one is stress management. Have you taught your kids to manage stress? Are you managing stress as a parent? And have you taught your kids 3 or 4 or 5 ways that they can manage stress in their life? They're going to encounter stress. The more they move out into the world, more independently they move out, stress is going to mount and build. And have you taught them? Are you ready? Are they ready to handle the stresses that they face in life? Have you taught them how to say no? Sometimes we take on stress because we take on too many responsibilities, and we accept invitations, and we are enticed into behavior patterns that really are not good for us at all, and we should be saying no to them. And have you taught your kid how to say no? Have you taught your kid how to select out peers that are positive, peers that are healthy, and that they're also thriving and they're also doing well, as compared to peers that are failing and not doing very well at all? If you've got your kids' boundaries, there are certain places that you go and there are certain places you don't go. There are certain ways you live your life and there are certain ways you don't live your life. There's a boundary. There's an absolute line that you don't cross. There are certain places in the community you don't go. There are certain behavior patterns you don't engage in. So we have these boundaries. Have you taught your kids to set boundaries, for themselves? Have you taught your kids to be assertive, to learn how to speak up and to be a voice, and let their voice be known, and let their wishes be known, let their desires to be known, and be able to say yes, be able to say no, be able to ask for help, be able to ask for guidance, or whatever it might be? Are your kids able to be assertive and speak out? Okay, that's stress management. Now, there's a number of ways that you can manage stress besides these points, but these are critical and these are crucial. You want to make sure your kids are able to manage the stresses in their life. Now, let me move to another one. Car maintenance. Every kid has a car. Every kid has to take care of that car. It's not just putting gas in it. They got to have money to put gas in it. But every 3,000, 4,000 miles, that car has to be oiled, and oil taken out, new oil put in, and that costs somewhere around $35 a time. And does your kid know that? Does your kid know how to prepare for that? Save $35, put it aside, so that when the oil change comes due, you got the $35 to pay for that particular service. Do you know how many times brakes need to be checked in the course of a year or the course of a period of time in a car? How often do you check brakes? How often do you just have the motor checked just to make sure that's running well? Are you teaching these kind of things to your kids to maintain the property they have, the expensive property of a car? And do they know how to maintain that, and do they know how to keep it up? And do they know where to do that? Do they have a mechanic that is the preferred mechanic for the family, perhaps? And somebody that you've worked with and you trust. So what you want is to make sure your kid knows how to get a mechanic they can trust, a mechanic that will do the kinds of things that they need done with their particular car. A new car maybe not need a lot of work other than maybe oil changes. An old car is going to need a lot of extra kind of work, and you have a mechanic that can do that. So, stress management, making sure your car and your home is maintained, making sure your home is upgraded, the apartment is upgraded, your property is upgraded. That's what's the essential point there. Okay, number 3 is this, self-defense. If you taught your kids self-defense strategies to be surviving in the community in which they live. Remember in kindergarten we used to tell our kids, stop, look, and listen? Well, that's self-defense. You stop at the curb, you listen for cars, you look for cars coming, and then you either proceed or you wait. Okay, you taught your kids that, didn't you? Well, show them that same kind of thing applies in life. That every time you go somewhere, every time you walk outside your house, every time you walk outside your apartment, every time you get out of your car and you park it somewhere and you get out, you stop, you look around, and you listen, and you decide whether you proceed or you don't proceed. Go back into the house, go back into the car, wait, or whatever it might be. That's just self-defense. There's little strategies that you employ in the area of self-defense, and that's a critical one. Survival skills are necessary. Do you carry mace? Maybe that's an important kind of thing. What about a gun? How do you handle gun issues in your life? Maybe if you are at high risk, you live in a high-risk community, area of the community, you have personal possessions that are important to you in some way, maybe you should have a gun permit. Maybe you don't need a gun permit. But you need to think that thing through, because that's all part of self-defense and it's part of survival skills. And if you don't need one, don't have one. If you do need one, there's opportunity for you to have one. There's a way for you to have one. But think that through, and to make sure that the permit is necessary and that your life is at stake if you don't have one. So it's the idea of surviving. Make sure that you're able to survive. You got the skills that will help you defend yourself and survive in the community and the neighborhood in which you live and the place that you travel within your particular community. So self-defense skills, you need to teach, and you need to demonstrate that yourself at kids at all levels, not just little kids crossing the street, but all of us as we move about our community in relative safety. Okay, here's the next point. Mental health. Are you teaching your kids? Have you taught your kids proper mental health? Do they know how to be assertive? Do they know how to speak up? That's important to mental health. Do they get proper rest? That's important to mental health. Are they eating properly? That's important, to mental health and to physical health. Are they living a life that is encouraging? Do they encourage themselves? Do they have ways of talking to themselves and complimenting themselves and encouraging themselves? Do they have thoughts and verses or words or images that they can think about that encourage and that strengthen and give positive emotional feeling? That's all part of mental health. See, mental health is really the ability to live in your community, live in your family, live in your marriage, live in your work setting, and be a blessing to other people, be a positive influence to other people, be a hope to other people, not just to yourself. It's that attitude of being positive, the attitude of being firm and open and willing to share and to learn, from others as well. That's positive mental health. Don't isolate. Don't withdraw. Be part of a social system. Be part of a social group. Be part of an activity that's going on. Join groups. Go to places that you are around other people. Don't isolate in the area of mental health. You've got to have your contacts, and you've got to have positive contacts with other people. So that's important. Now, also face your fears. Face your fears. Here's the issue here. Fear we all have. Some of us are fear of snakes, obviously, fear of dark, fear of going out in open spaces, fear of heights, we have all kinds of fears. We've learned them from childhood, and we have all these fears, and hopefully within the context of family life and school and so on, you learn to overcome these fears. You learn that the fear is really not necessary. It's really an extra burden that you're carrying, and it's not really necessary whatsoever. But we have fears, and we need to face them. We need to deal with them. We can't avoid them. We can't avoid situations of which we are afraid, because then we're restricting our life. We're hiding away, from our life. So fear you have to face. That's what the F means in fear. E means you can expect that you can improve. You can expect that you can change that. You can expect that you can do better. You can expect that that fear can be conquered. You can expect that that fear can be overcome. That's F-E. The fear, face it. E, expect that you can improve, or you can change, or you can overcome that particular fear. A, you got to be assertive. You got to speak up. You can't be withdrawn. You can't be isolated and keep to yourself and not speak up. You've got to be able to assert yourself and talk and share your fears with other people. Tell other people about your fears. Ask them what they would do to help conquer those fears. Talk about it with other people, but be assertive, be open, be expressive. Admit it, you see. That's what fear is really necessary and what it's all about. So R means you can learn how to relax. You have to learn how to relax. You have to let your body just relax. You take deep breaths and slowly breathe, and take a deep breath and slowly breathe. And just calm yourself down. That's what R means. Relax. Relax your chest. Relax your shoulders. Relax your face. Relax your jaw. Relax your arms. Relax that stomach. Relax that chest muscle. You see, when you relax, you don't feel the anxiety. You don't feel the tension that you would otherwise. So relaxation is the opposite of tension. If you relax, you're not going to be in tension. If you relax, you're not going to be anxious. So relaxation is a very important part of overcoming your fears. And S means make sure you get enough sleep. When you have anxiety, when you have tension, when you have stress of that nature, you get tired. You're more prone to fatigue. So make sure you have adequate sleep and you have good sleep. So that's facing your fears. That's what it's all about, facing your fears. And then make sure that you have the domestic skills taught to your kids. If you're a kid, make sure you have learned the domestic skills. Before you leave home, you should have 10 meals that you know how to cook. You know how to make your bed. You know how to change your sheets, okay? You know how to clean your room. You know how to vacuum. You know how to dust. You know how to do these domestic chores of just preparing food for yourself and preparing food for somebody else to share. And have a variety of menu options and healthy options of eating, and that you know how to eat, and that you're not dependent upon fast food chains, to feed you. But that you can provide your own food, you can provide your own cooking, and you can provide your own healthy meals. That's what's necessary and what's important. So there we are. We went through the survival skills and the necessary learning skills, so you be ready to leave home when you're 18 or when you're 20 or when you're 23 or whatever it might be. Those are what I just call life skills that I just went through. These are the life skills that every parent needs to teach their kids, and every kid needs to learn. Now, there are many more, but those are the life skills that are important at this point in time in your life as a starter, so that you're ready to leave. Now, let me go on to a second major area of learning and knowledge and information that you need to know. That is the area of personal finance, the area of money management. You see, that's a big thing. If you're leaving home, you're on your own for income and the management of that income. You're on your own. How do you save for the future? And how you spend a little bit for today, and how you earn for today, and how you earn for the future, and how you build a future financial base. So it's not just a matter, do you have enough to get through the day? The issue is, do you know the financial tricks of the trade? Do you know the financial concepts that you have to be able to know and learn and utilize so that you are safe and that you're solid and that you can live your life without being a pauper? You can live your life successfully with adequate income and adequate resources and for what you need, for your day. So let me walk through some of these that are important in the area of personal money management. You must know about insurance. It's important that you understand insurance. There are times when you buy insurance. There are times when you don't buy insurance. There are certain times when certain kind of insurance is bought, and there are times when other kind of insurance is bought. Life insurance when you're young is probably not needed, but you may need medical insurance. If you're healthy, if you have a long history of health, you have a healthy family, you have a healthy genes, you may need to have a very minimal policy of health insurance. But if you come from a background of ill health and you have a family that's in health and there's a lot of medical costs and expenses, chances are you're going to have a lot of medical expenses, and you need an insurance policy that's a little stronger. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but it will cover more. So you have to kind of understand that insurance will be there, and it's there for the purpose of covering costs and expenses that otherwise you wouldn't be able to handle. That's what insurance is all about. Same thing with car insurance. Yes, in our state, it's required for you to have car insurance. You must have it. You got to figure that into your budget. And you can have car insurance minimal, or you can have car insurance at a little higher level. If you're prone to accidents, if you've had a series of accidents, you better get a higher level of insurance. If you have a very positive driving record, maybe you could have a little lower level of insurance and get by. But it's a risk. So you have to be very careful in the kind of insurance that you have. You have a house? Yes, you got to better have that insurance. That would be an enormous cost if it were to burn down or something would happen, and you'd be stuck with the cost of that. See, insurance is there to help you pay for things that you could not pay for if something bad happened in your life, something unexpected happened in your life. It helps you be prepared to cover costs that would just do you in. In the area of dental, insurance is another example of that. If you have good teeth, if you have come from a background and a history of family with good teeth, yeah, you may not have dental insurance. You may not need it. Just go periodically and have your teeth checked and cleaned and so on. But if you come from a background of very poor dental history, you better have insurance and have a little higher level of insurance in dental, because you're going to have a lot of costs as you proceed forward and get older. So you got to think of it that sense. Do you really need it? Perhaps. Do you need a lot of it? Maybe. Do you need some of it? Yes, perhaps. So that's the area of insurance. It's that coverage that otherwise it would do you in if you had to pay bills for something that went wrong. Now, what about budgeting? Budgeting and savings accounts. That's very important. Everybody has been brought up on the idea that you have 4 envelopes. You put money after you get paid at the end of the month, or twice a month you get paid, you put money in these envelopes for different purposes. Or you have different kind of bank accounts for different purposes, and you put money in that. Or you have a little box somewhere that you put money in and you use it for different purposes. You budget. There's many different ways of budgeting, but you got to have at least 4 buckets, 4 boxes, 4 envelopes, for your money. You got to have money that you spend to get you through the day and through the week and through the month. That's true. But you have to have money that you save for the bills that are coming up, for the car that you're going to have repaired, or for the car insurance that's going to come due, or for your health insurance that's going to come due, or whatever. You got to put money away for that purpose. You budget money for future costs and future expenses that you're going to have. You have money for savings. You better have a little savings account. Put money away for the 5 years out, 3 years out. You may be saving to buy a car, maybe to buy a home, saving to go to school, go back to school, pay your education. You got to have a bucket or an envelope for that, so you put money into that. And then you put money into a little bucket or into an envelope for charitable giving. Share a little of your money with somebody else. There are many, many charities that you probably know about and that you believe in and that you feel are doing good work. Give them a little money on a monthly basis. So have these envelopes, have these boxes, have these buckets. And when you get an income, when you get a check, whether it's twice a month or once a month or however you get it, start divvying out those monies so that when the time comes and you need that money, it's there. That's what budgeting is all about. And hopefully your mother and your dad have taught you that. Or mother, hopefully you're teaching your kids that. And you do it right from the very beginning. We started our 3 children in the lessons of budgeting when they hit grade 7. So when they came into junior high, they went on a budget plan. And they were provided an allowance, but then they were instructed to put money into 4 different envelopes and then manage their money accordingly. And all 3 of the kids are excellent money managers today, but they started in grade 7. And by the time that they left home, they were excellent money managers. They knew what money meant, and they knew how to save it, and they knew how to store it away, and they knew how to use it, and they knew how to use it for the future, and they became excellent money managers. So as a parent, help your kids learn to budget and learn how to save money and use it that way. Now, here's another point, compound interest. Now, many kids don't know what compound interest is, but it's an important part of money management. You see, if you put $100 into a savings account, and let's say maybe a Christmas account, or you just put it into the bank in a savings account, you have $100 there. And if you have it in a bank account, you don't get much interest. Maybe you get 1 or 2%. If you have it in some other kind of an account, maybe you get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6%. But let's say you put it into an account where you get 6%. Well, at the end of the year, you will have now $100 and 6. You gain 6%, so you have $6. So now you go through another year. You have another 6%. It's not 6% on the $100 that you put in. It's now 6% on the $106 that you have in that account. And now you have upwards to $112. And you do that month upon month upon month upon month over years. And you just let that build. You let that grow. And in 20 years, you'll have a very substantial savings account if you just put a little bit of money away every single month. And the recommendation is, as a kid, put in $50, put in $25, put in $100, put in $10, put in what you can every single month, and let that build. Let that build, and let that compound interest help you build, so that when you need that money or want to look at that money 20 years out or 15 years out to do something, you'll have a very substantial amount of money that you've been able to save. So, how do you invest that money? That's the next question. How do you invest? You put it in the bank? Well, you put it in the bank, you put it in a savings account, you're going to get like 1% for interest. So you're not going to get much there. So that's not really the kind of the place to put money for the long term. If you need money just for the next 3 months or 4 months, yes, that's the place to put it. But if you're saving money for the long term, you need to look at some kind of stocks and bonds and some kind of investment. So find somebody that works in the area of investments, somebody at the bank that you go to, or a friend of somebody that you know, or some parent that you know that is in the area of finance management. And they can help you develop some funds and develop some structures to save your money. But make sure that you learn that there are good ways of earning money, saving money, but there are better ways of doing it as well. Yes, you want your money to be safe, but you want your money to accumulate as much as possible by the interest that is developed there. So that's how you invest. Now, what about taxes? What about taxes? You need to teach your kids taxes. You know, taxes is something that's part of our world, right? If you live in a democratic community, a democratic state, democratic city, yes, your taxes are going to be a little bit higher. But do you know how much taxes you pay on the gas that you put in your car every day? Well, figure it out. You pay about 90 cents of taxes for every gallon of gas that you put in your car, if you're in California. Now, if you're in another state, it isn't that much. Perhaps, maybe it's more. But taxes get added on to whatever the cost of an item is. And you're paying that particular tax. Every time you buy an item, you're paying a tax on that. You buy a car, you're paying an enormous tax, on that. So you have to understand that items are not just what they are worth, but there's a tax on top of that that you have to be prepared to pay and think in terms of. And if you don't like taxes, then maybe you need to be careful where you live, in the state in which you live, the city in which you live. Maybe you need to move somewhere where the taxes are a little bit less, because they're not all the same across the country. It varies considerably, and it does follow the political structures of a particular city or state or area in which you live. So look where you should be. Look at the taxes and see how that plays into your life plans and whether you want to spend a lot of money on taxes or not. And you just have to be aware of how much tax you're paying every time you buy something. Look at the receipt, see what the item costs, see what the tax amount was, and now you know what that tax, and that's just going to fund the government. That's just going to pay for the police, going for the fire department, going for the roads, and going for different constructions and so on, and paying the politicians and all of that. That's where that money goes. So be wise when it comes to the issue of taxes. And then lastly, be wise in the area of credit cards. Credit cards you need to understand. You may take out a credit card because you want to just buy something when you don't have the money. But look at how much money you're paying on that item plus the interest on that credit card. You may be paying 20 cents for every dollar on that credit card. You may be 18, maybe 17% interest. So your item that you just bought was whatever it cost. Let's say it cost $50 plus 17% of interest every year that you will pay on that. So be careful when it comes to credit cards. If you want to use a credit card because it's a way to keep records or just an easy way to pay for something, then you pay that credit card off by the end of the month. You got 30 days. So whatever that is, you pay that credit card off so that you have a zero balance. So you use your card to buy something, you pay it off within the end of the month, and you have a zero balance and you've got a clean record, but you have a card to use for convenient purposes. But if you keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and you're not paying it off, you're building a balance, and you may be paying 15%, 16% on that balance. That's not wise. So, parent, help your kid understand some of the finances of life, some of the financial important factors that will bring success or failure to your kid in terms of how he uses money. So that's your job as a parent. And make sure that that's learned, and I say you learn it early. Junior high, certainly. very important at grade 7. Maybe grade 6 you should start. Some kids are very wise and very sophisticated. Maybe you want to start in grade 4, 5, 6. Others may be a little less involved in the social world. Maybe you don't have to start till grade 7 or grade 8. But make sure junior high is the years to start money management in your home and teaching those skills to your kid. Okay, we're going to take a break here and come back and pick up another skill. We're going to look at some of the life skills that are important to teach your kids so they're ready to leave home when they're 18 or they're 19 or 20 or 23 or whatever it is, that you've done your job as a parent. So get a cup of coffee and I'll see you in a few minutes.
When I set foot on the campus to come visit it, I was struck by how open and how welcoming the students and the professors were. Coming to Gordon was like coming home.
I think intentional community is what Jesus modeled with his disciples, and Gordon has really fostered a good place for intentional community to happen.
Gordon is a place where you can meet people from all over the world and hear their stories. I meet a lot of different people who are shaping who I am today.
Gordon seeks to graduate men and women of character, of leadership, and the world is the place where Gordon students belong.
Choosing to go to Gordon was, I think, one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I expect to be changed.
The in-house services we offer here at Total Life Change: anger management, one-on-one biblical counseling. We do a marriage enrichment, codependency and chemical dependency one-on-one counseling. We have a relapse prevention piece. We also do a lot of workshops where we inform and educate people on different topics. There is one-on-one individual sessions, and we also have group therapy that we work in a group. We find that can be so advantageous when you know you're not alone. The key is to call, email, online, and get a hold of one of the receptionists here, and we will do an assessment. We are not here to direct, guide, and force. We're here to meet you where you're at, then direct, then guide, and then give you options to break free.
Okay, welcome back, and glad you're joining us now for our little second segment here of this talk and my visit with you on the 25 things you as a parent need to teach your child, your children, so that they are prepared to leave home at age 18, at age 20, at age 21, 23, or 24, whatever it is, whenever they leave home, to go to college, to go to work, or to live independently, or to be married, or whatever it is. Have you done your job as a parent in teaching your kids the basic skills, the basic knowledge base, so they're prepared to live successfully as they leave your home. So we're walking through 25 different lessons that's important that you have taught your kids. So make sure you have your paper, your pencil, your little checklist, and see how you're doing. Because you may need to go back and redo some of these areas and make sure you've taught them. Make sure your kids understand them. Make sure you have learned them. Because these are going to be basic issues that are going to face as they move out into the community and live independently. So let's move on. I want to go through now a series of life skills that's important for your kids to learn and that for you to teach. These we just call life skills, okay? Here's a life skill that's very important. Learn how to be assertive. Teach your kids how to be assertive. Now, first of all, you as a parent need to be assertive, but you also want to be able to teach your kids to speak up, to ask questions, to express themselves, to share their ideas, to share their feelings, to raise doubts, to argue, to debate, to discuss. That's being assertive. So you see, you have aggressiveness over here, and you have passivity over here. That's not good. Neither of those are good. You don't want your kids to be aggressive, to fight everybody, and to argue and debate. You don't want them to be passive, which they say nothing over here. You want them to be in the middle ground, which is what we call assertive, to be open and to be expressive and to share and to learn and to be part of the interactive process that goes on in their life with their teachers, with their peers, with their friends, with you as parents, and with others. Make sure that life is interactive. So they must learn the assertive skills of speaking up. Do not let your kids leave the dinner table without having expressed themselves. Don't let your kids end the day without having expressed themselves about something or what they did today or how they feel or what experiences they've had. Make sure that assertiveness is part of everyday experience. And then they will be prepared to leave home. Okay, assertiveness is important. Now, problem solving. You got to teach problem solving skills. First of all, do you recognize there's a problem? What's the problem? That's the issue. What's the problem? How do we get to this place? How did this problem develop? Not necessarily whose fault and all that, but how did this problem develop and emerge? Now, what are the options to resolve it? You know, every problem can be resolved by 2 or 3 different ways. So what are they? You could do this, you could do that, you could do something else, but how would you solve the problem? What would be the 2 or 3 or 4 ways that you would propose to solving the problem? And then select the one that seems to be most appropriate, be most likely to solve the problem, or the one that you can do, the one that you're able to handle. So that's problem solving. Make sure your kids know how to do that. They can process problems in a very systematic, very good way, direct. If your kid is just blaming everybody, blaming you and you're blaming them and everybody's blaming everybody else, that's not problem solving. That's arguing. That's arguing over of who's responsible. We don't want to know who's responsible for the problem. We want to know who's responsible for the solution. See, it isn't the fact that you have a problem. It's the fact that you need to find a solution to whatever problem that has emerged in your life. You want kids to think problem solving, not blaming. See, that's the critical factor there. Okay, so we have problem solving. Now here's the third one under life skills. Learning from the mistakes you made. Learning from the mistakes we make. The other day I was talking to a person in my office, and this person said this, you know, I've made some bad choices, and I need to kind of rethink those, and I need to correct those. I made some bad choices. Okay, that's a person that's beginning to learn from their mistakes. Sure, there was a mistake made. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 of them that were made. But take a mistake, figure out how that mistake was made, and how you can prevent that mistake from being made again. How to get out of that mistake. How to get out of that situation so it doesn't even keep on being a problem. So learn from the mistakes. Look at it from the point of view that the mistake was made and you need now to find a solution and a way to change that so that mistake doesn't keep on happening. You can also learn from history. You can learn from the events of your life, the history of your life, the books you read, the historical lessons that have gone on. Learn from the events that are going on in the world today. Look at the political activity that's going on in the world today. You learn from what's going on. You listen, and you learn, and you improve your own self. You improve your life by the mistakes that people make, the mistakes that you made, the mistakes that have been made over history, if you will. So don't be afraid of mistakes. Look at them in the eye and say, I need to learn to prevent those mistakes in the future and correct them. Now, don't burn your bridges. Don't burn your bridges. You know, sometimes we leave a job. We just walk off a job and leave it and say nasty things and critical things and unwise things. That's burning your bridge. You know, you can never go back to that person. You can never go back to that job because you've burned your bridge. You leave graciously. You leave with an attitude of positivism. You leave with an open mind. You leave with that you've learned something. You appreciated something from what you've learned in that job that you had, and now you're moving on to something different and something maybe better. Who knows? But don't burn your bridges. Don't break up in a relationship and make it very critical and make it very sarcastic and very hurtful and very abusive. That's burning your bridges. You want relationships to be friendly as they come to a termination point. You want relationships to at least be fair and open so that you can at least talk to each other again in the future when you have contact. So don't burn your bridges. Make sure that you leave anything in a positive way, in a fruitful way, so you have opportunity to go back. Now, learn questions. Learn to ask questions. You know, here's the issue here. We get in conversations, we get in debate, we get in discussion. We work in an office, we work in a setting of some place, and a lot of activities going on that promotes us to think. It promotes us to think of a question, or promotes us to wonder something, or promotes us to consider something. But we don't ask. We don't talk. We don't express ourselves because we're not assertive. The point is, learn to ask a question. Learn to look somebody in the eye and say, yeah, let me ask you a question. And then ask your question. Or you look somebody in the eye and say, you know, I'm not sure about this, so help me. What do you think about this? So you ask your question. There are leads in. Those are what we call lead-in to asking questions. Or you can just ask your question. Just bluntly ask the question. Don't be somebody that sits through a conversation and leaves that conversation never having participated and not asking a question, not asking for clarification or asking for more information. That's what questioning is. You're asking for more information so that you know more. You understand it better. You understand it more wisely so that you can respond, that you can live your life. So I ask the questions that are helpful to you or that you need to know or that you want to know because that's the way you live your life. Don't be somebody who just assumes that you understand or that you know. If you're not sure, ask a question. Going way back to math class, if you don't understand the formula of math, ask the question. If you don't understand a point of history, ask the question. If you don't understand some grammar part or why we spell a word a certain way, ask the question. You see, teach your kids to be questioners, asking questions of you and of your siblings and of anybody in your house, anybody in your household and teachers and everybody else. Get questioning to flow. Ask questions. Make sure your kid knows how to do that and uses questions to advance their own life. Now, here's the next point. Teach your kid to exceed expectations. Exceed expectations. You know, every job has an expectation. Every teacher in school expects certain things out of the class. You want to make sure your kid is taught to exceed those expectations, to go beyond them, because that will make your child become more noticeable to a teacher, to an employer. If the employer has an 8 o'clock start date, you be there at 7:50. That's exceeding the expectations. If the job is over at 5 o'clock, you stay there till 5:15. That's exceeding expectations. Finish the task. Start something early. Get going. Contribute, if you will, the 10 minutes before, the 10 minutes after the hours, but exceed the expectations. Let people know that you're not afraid of doing more than is requested, more than is desired, or more than is being asked of you. Same at home. Your kids can exceed the expectations that you have, for them. Maybe the grades. Maybe you can say, look, my expectation is that you at least have a B. Well, they can get a B plus. They can get an A minus. That's exceeding the expectations. So get a kid to think that way, that it's not just what is expected of them. That's important. But getting your child to understand that exceeding those expectations is even more important. Okay, here's my last point under living life skills. Live by mottos. Live by mottos. My dad had a motto that said this: don't run up the stairs and don't run down people. Well, makes pretty good advice. Don't run up the stairs. That's a good thing for your heart sometimes. But don't run down people. Don't criticize. Don't put down people. That isn't good. That's burning your bridges, if you will. So there's a motto. You can live by a motto, like that. There's all kinds of mottos. Be there first. You can do it. You've done it before. You can do it again. Those are mottos. Those are ways of talking to yourself. Those are ways of encouraging yourself. The attaboys that we say to ourselves when we've accomplished something, we've achieved something. We pat ourselves on the back. You see, those are mottos. Those are ways of just being assured that you have positive support from yourself. You want positive support from other people, obviously, sure. But you want positive support from within yourself. There may be a verse from the Bible. There may be a piece of poetry. There may be some kind of a quote from some famous person that you know that is very important to you. Well, live by a motto like that. Live by quotes like that. Use them to encourage and support and strengthen and give you guidance and give you hope. So live by mottos. Okay, those are life skills. Okay, I want to go to the fourth set now and go through some ideas of what we call the social skills of life. Some of the social skills. Okay, what are they? What are the social skills to make sure that you're really prepared to leave home and enter a world out there that's a social world, and that you're going to be expected to know certain things and be able to perform in certain ways to be successful. So it's not just leaving home. It's not just going to school. It's not just leaving home and going to work. It's not just leaving home and becoming married. It's, are you ready for that? Do you have the skills, the skill set? Do you have now the social skills that will make you successful in doing that very thing of leaving home and being on your own? Parent, this is your job. Parent, this is your responsibility. Parent, this is your checklist. Are you doing it? Have you done it? Okay, what are some of these social skills that's important? Well, make sure your child understands how to manage time. When you take a trip, you go somewhere across town, you're going to go run an errand. Think of 2 or 3 things that you can do along the way or on the way back. That's managing your time. You're going to take your time to go somewhere. Make it pay off by doing 2 or 3 or 4 different things in that same trip so that you have accomplished many things and you've saved time and you use time wisely. That's time management, you see. What are the things that are important to do first thing in the morning? Sometimes when you have the most energy, you have the most enthusiasm, the most ability to think clearly, do them in the morning. That you'll be more efficient, you'll be more effective if you do those things in the morning. There are things that you can do at night and later in the evening before you go to bed, sure. But what are they? What are the things that you do well at that time of the night as compared to the things that you do early in the morning? See, manage your time throughout the day. Put things into the day that are appropriate for that particular time frame. When you take a break at work, how are you going to use that break? Can you manage that time, that 15 minutes, that 20 minutes you might take for a break? Well, how can you use that wisely? How can that be productive? What telephone call do you need to make? What letter do you need to write? What note do you need to make? What plan do you need to make? What list do you need to make? Use that time to be productive. See, time management is being productive throughout the day, all day, in many different things. In all the things you have to do, plug them in. Plug them into the right time, in the time when you can best do them and be successful. That's time management. Okay, what about etiquette? Yes, there's etiquette. There are certain ways that we set the table. There are certain ways that we put down silverware at the table. There are certain ways we put cups and glasses on the table in front of the plate. That's etiquette. There are certain ways that we help people socially. There are certain ways we open doors. There are certain times we open doors for somebody else. We give up a seat on the bus or on the train or on the streetcar or wherever that might be. You give up your seat for somebody who can sit down. In an auditorium, when somebody's standing, you may stand up and let them sit down, particularly if it's a woman or particularly if it's an older person. You see, there are points of etiquette that are necessary. And what are the etiquette points that you have taught as a parent? Maybe you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What are the points of etiquette that you've taught your kids? Think about it. Have you really taught them anything that would be considered etiquette? So that's your job as a parent, and I challenge you with it. Now, here's the next point, what we call emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is just the idea of learning the social skills that are necessary in life to relate to other people properly, like having empathy. When somebody's going through a tough time in their life, be empathetic. Give them empathy. Express some empathy towards them. Be compassionate, towards them. Their responsibility, fulfill that responsibility. You see? If you have a decision to make decisions. Learn how to make decisions. That's emotional intelligence. You see? That's what we call being streetwise. That's being what we call just doing the right thing at the right time in a social setting so that you are an effective person, that you are a desired person, you are a welcome person, you are a person that other people will like because of your kindness and your thoughtfulness. Okay, that's emotional intelligence, but a lot of other points to it, but that gives you a kind of a flavor for that. Public speaking is another point. Every school has a course in public speaking. I took public speaking in high school. I took public speaking in college. And it's important that you give opportunity for your kids to learn to speak in public. So whenever there's opportunity, encourage your kids to speak up. Encourage your kids to have a part. Participate in a play, participate in some kind of an act, participate in some kind of a musical, participate in some kind of a social event where you're in front of people and you have to do something, portray something, say something. You see, be a public speaker. It's very important in your life that you are not shy when it comes to being in front of an audience. Very important that you're comfortable and that you can express yourself, you can express a point, you can teach a point, you can clarify a point, you can add something. Make sure that you are a public speaker. And if you have opportunity to take a class, take a class. If you have opportunity to watch other people be public speakers, watch them and then imitate them. Model them. Make sure that you have learned from people who do that well. And as a parent, make sure you do public speaking as an example to your kids. So be out in public, speak up, express yourself, because a world out there needs the wisdom and the knowledge and the ideas of your kids in the future as they speak up and are able to speak out in public and maybe teach others, maybe even being a teacher, for that matter. That's public speaking at its best. Here's the next point, what we call honesty. Honesty is a very critical thing. There are young kids who are not honest. It virtually can be said that every child is not honest. Every child lies. There was some research showing that children who lie, who are good at it, children who lie regularly, who are known for their lying, have a different brain structure than kids who do not lie. They have a brain structure that they think more quickly. And as you think of it, that's what lying is all about, is to think quickly and come up with an alternative answer to the answer that is the right answer. So kids who lie have a brain that thinks clearly and thinks rapidly and quickly, and they can express an answer in a whole different term than what the answer really is and what it calls for. And we know that kids who lie have a brain that has a variety of words available to them. They have a large vocabulary. They have a wide range of expressing themselves, explaining things. They're sharp on words. They can come up with words. They can come up with answers much more quickly. But make sure if you have a child that lies, make sure that you deal with that and you resolve that and you stop that kind of behavior, because you want to change that brain structure of the young child so that as they become an adult, they do not live a life of lying. And unfortunately speaking, if kids lie through the elementary years, lie through the junior high years, lie through the high school years, lie into the college years, they'll probably be a liar all of their life. Don't marry a liar. Don't hook up your life in a business deal with a liar. If people lie, avoid them like the plague. And that's why it's important that you as a parent, make sure you face this issue with your kids. Don't let them go on lying and making stories up. And then my last point, we come down to the 25th point. Deal with change. Deal with the changes that take place in life. You know, life is never stable. There's always changes taking place. There's always interruptions. There's always alternatives that come up. There's always interference that comes up. Change occurs all the time in life. Some kids handle that very well. Some kids don't handle that very well. So help your child deal with change. Sometimes you have to almost create change to teach them. Just calm it down. Just cool it. Think of an alternative. What can we do instead of what we were planning to do? We can do it this way rather than the way that we thought we were going to do it. Look at alternatives. Dealing with change means that you have a mind that thinks in alternatives. There's never one way to do something. There's always several ways of doing something. And when a change occurs, what are the alternative ways of doing something? That's what you teach your kids. Be flexible. Okay? So we've just now walked through 25 lessons, 25 issues, 25 things, 25 points that as a parent you may make sure that you teach your child before they leave the home. Now, some of these things you've done very well, I'm sure. Some of these things you've done fairly well, I'm sure. Some of these things you've missed. You haven't done it all. So go back in your checklist and pick out 1, 2, or 3 points that you need to make sure that you study and that you talk to your kids about and that you educate them on and bring them up to date on so that they have knowledge on that particular point. Now, there are more. You could probably come up with another 25 if you sat down and thought about it. But these are some basic skills and basic lessons that every kid needs to take with them in their satchel when they walk out of your house and go off to college, walk out of your house and get married, walk out of your house and go to a job somewhere, or live independently for whatever reason it might be. These are the skills that they take with them. And have you taught these skills to them? That's the question for you as a parent. Well, anyway, nice to have you with me today, and thanks for joining me. I have a little quote for you as we bring our discussion to a conclusion today and kind of sums it up a little bit. He who first treads a path directs the steps of generations after him. So there you are. When you are the treader of a path, you're the parent. You set a path for your kids to follow, and their kids to follow, and then their kids to follow. So you're setting this up for generations. So parent, think it carefully. Live your life carefully. Live your life properly. Live a good life because you want your kids to follow that life. And you want your grandkids to follow that life. And you want your great-grandkids to follow that life as well. So you see, it isn't just how you do it today. It's how you're doing it for the generations to come and the lessons that you're leaving behind and teaching them. So thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.